Hi everybody, and welcome back to Sew Along with Jan and the Kimberbell. This is going to be the September mini quilt. So we're into fall, and you can see this is going to be a really cute little fall mini quilt. Has quite a few blocks in it, so we're going to move right along because there's actually, I think there's 10 blocks. So there's 6 little ones here, and then there's 4 bigger ones. So there are quite a few blocks. Most of them don't take too long. I think this one looks like it might take a little while, the house here, but the rest of them aren't too complicated. So they should be easy and fun. So okay, so let's talk about fabrics and stuff here. Sorry, my book is kind of thick now, so it's hard to get in here. All right. So I didn't have some of these fabrics, so we'll talk a little bit about the fabric first, and then we'll come back to the thread. So what I do when I pick these out is I try to find, basically I'm picking from my stash, and there's quite a few fabrics in this one. I think there's 18 fabrics, and that goes to the top of the second page here. And I just try to find fabric that's very close to this and like color-wise. Now I did notice that when I picked this number 16 down here for the leaf on the thankful, it looked red to me here because I was looking at this page, and I think it's supposed to actually be orange because when I look at the picture here, it looks orange. So my leaf is red, so I had to pick out a couple of extra colors too. And my background, let's see, my backing, I didn't have anything that was kind of like plaid like that, so I've got another fabric. I can't remember what I did. Let's see, that was for the acorns. Let's see, oh, I had kind of a little check. I thought that might be pretty, so I had this one. It has a little check on it, and it's still that kind of taupey, kind of cream color, so I thought that one was pretty. And then what I did is I picked out my fabrics, and then I just cut what it says over here for out of each one. And most of the time I'm just cutting out of scraps. So then what I do is I take all of these, and it tells me what the piece is going to be. So then I go through and I put all of my blocks in a little pack. So I just like put these together. So here's what leaf 1, and that's those 2 pieces for that. And here's thankful. You can put them in a little baggie if you want to too. Here's the gourd background. I think that one needs some embellishment. It has like embroidery leather on it. Here's the small mushroom, and so on. So I went through and I separated them all out into what they were going to be for. Okay, so here's the house. That one had quite a bit. And then here's my mushrooms, my large mushroom, and my acorns. And then there's a couple of little filler blocks. Now I cut my filler blocks the size that it says to cut them. It says to cut them 2.5 by 2.5. They tell you to cut them 3 by 3 because they use a different technique now to quilt these, but I still like the original technique, so I'll show you how I do them. So we're going to do that. But there's all my fabric. So I just kind of go through. Again, I'm using up what I have. If you have a kit, you'll probably have the exact fabrics. I just use what I have at home, and I do have quite a few Kimberbell fabrics in here. But whatever you have is going to work just fine. And I just kind of go by color and do the best I can, except obviously I went red this way instead of orange. So it looked red to me in here, and I thought, oh, it's red. So I have a red leaf. That's going to be fine. Okay, I got them all cut. You also need to cut your binding. So I've got my binding back here and your backing. So here's my backing, and this is what I'm going to use for binding, a brown. And the binding she says 2.5. I like 2.25 inch binding. So I've cut mine 2.25. We'll go through this when we do the assembly too. And then I cut my 14 by 14, but I do put shape flex on the back of my backing fabric so that it doesn't pucker when I'm sewing on it. And then I also cut a sleeve because we're putting little sleeves on ours, and it is 12 by 6. So 6 by 12, then I cut my little sleeve here. And we'll go through this in the assembly video as well. So that's the other things. And then there's a little packet if you got the embellishment kit. The embellishment kit's so nice because then you have a little packet with some clear vinyl, some embroidery leather, and then it also had these 2 pieces of the flex foam. So I cut those down to the sizes I needed them for. Okay, so there's my little embellishments. And you'll need a chunk of batting. I just use a chunk. I don't cut the batting. You can cut it if you'd like. I find that it's just as easy to just cut as I go because I have to trim it anyway. Okay, so then how I pick colors. They kind of give you some suggestions here. And so what I do is I go by my fabrics. So if your fabrics don't meet, you know, or don't match what's in there, you just need to go by what you have chosen. So like I needed a light taupe, and so I found one that was about the color of one of my fabrics, and a cream. There's a couple of ivories I have because one of my ivories is a little darker than the other, so I have two different ones here. Fashion Glow is what works well. These are the brother colors, by the way. That works well with the yellows in the Kimberbell yellows. Their orange is a little bit more on this almond side. So I have an almond, and I have a bronze for copper. And then that matched the embroidery leather really well. So that matched this embroidery leather. And then I've got a light brown, a dark brown, and I had another brown. I think I have 3 browns just in case one of them didn't match as well. My red for my leaf here, and then a couple of golds. I had a lighter gold and a darker gold for that. And then I had to add a couple because I think the background for the leaf is actually kind of a green, but it looked gray in the picture to me. So I picked this little gray, and I think it'll look pretty. So I pulled out a little real light gray to quilt that with. And then my leaf, I couldn't really tell what color that was. So my leaf's going to be this light mint green. And so I picked out a mint green to go with my leaf. So I think it just depends on your color. So that's how I pick the colors for my thread. I kind of go by their list, but then I match them to the fabrics that I have chosen. So hopefully that helps you. It's basically I just kind of look through and find what I want, and then I pull out the threads that match it. Okay, so I'll have to refer back to this little chart every now and then. All right, so we got everything cut. Now let's move on to got all of our embellishments. So I'll lay those back here, and we're going to move on to leaf number 1. We're going to do three blocks in this video. There'll probably be 4 videos for this because there's quite a few blocks. So we're going to do 3 blocks, and they're all pretty small. So the first one is actually going to be done in a 4x4 hoop, and it is it's going to finish 2x2, so it's very small when it's done. And then this has got that little leaf in it. So I've got my leaf 1. So this is leaf 1 is the name of the design. You get my little kit here for that. So here's leaf 1. I've got a piece of no-show mesh stabilizer in my 4x4 hoop, and I picked a I don't have any of the quilting designs that they have in here, so I picked one out. This one said diamond 3, but I didn't have diamond 3, but I had 1 and 2, so I picked one of those. So we're going to do diamond 1. So a second, I got to go back here. I was in that folder, so let me go back here to my quilting design. So we're going to start with the quilting, of course. That's what we do first. So I'm going to go down to diamond. I think I picked diamond 1. So let's go get diamond 1 here. There's a lot of A, B's, and C's. Here we go. Diamond 1. And then it says it's going to be 2x2, so it's going to be a real small one. So we're going to go get the embroidery files. And we're going to get the 2x2. So it says 2x2 vertical. So I think it's this way. So let's choose this one. And they come in centered. So we're going to hit set on this one. So there's our quilting. And then we're going to hit add down here. So sorry, you probably couldn't see me. It was right down here. Let me return so you can see add. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in leaf 1. So let's go get leaf 1 here. Got to find it. Mini Quilts, volume 2. Here it is. And this is September. Can you believe we're on the September one already? All right, so this is leaf 1. So here's leaf 1. And it fits in a 4x4 hoop, actually easily in a 4x4 hoop. And we're going to hit set and embroidery. And these are supposed to be centered on each other. So they automatically, in the Brother machines, will come in centered. So that looks good. And I think we're ready to go. So we're going to do the quilting first. And my block, you know, my background fabric is this brown. So the second here, I'm going to move my book here. And I need to find my brown that matches that. I think it's this darker one, yeah. I think I'm going to do my quilting in this darker one. So bring this down so you can see what I'm doing. So here's my darker brown. So we'll put this in. I've got embroidery bobbin thread. So I've got a pre-wound bobbin thread in my machine, and I have a number 11. I have a number 11 embroidery needle. Got my no-show mesh in the hoop. Okay, so we'll thread the brown. So I'm going to use brown for my quilting. The first step for all these quilting designs, get my book out of the way here so I won't lose anything, okay, is going to be the placement line for the batting. So I've got a little chunk of batting. Remember, I don't cut my batting. So I've got my little chunk ready here. And it's going to do the little placement line. Then we're going to lay our batting down. Boy, that's really a little leaf, isn't it? It's really small. And then I'm going to lay my little chunk of batting down here, and we're going to sew out step number 2. And it's going to be the tack down line for that batting. I'm using Hobbs 80-20 batting. That's what I use when I quilt on my long arm. And I like this batting because it's got a little more loft than a lot of the project battings do, because it gives I think it gives the quilting especially a little bit more loft and definition. So I like this Hobbs batting. And I always have lots of pieces of it. So we're just going to trim this in the hoop. I believe they've provided SVG files for a lot of the appliques, so you can always cut them out if you want to. I don't normally do that. I just trim in the hoop so much. Most of these designs are pretty simple, so I just trim them in the hoop. Okay, and then the next step, step number 3, is always the placement line for the fabric. So we'll get this ready. I've got my, and then, oh, by the way, they also requested fusible backing. I put shape flex or fusible backing on the back of both of these pieces of fabric. Okay, so this is the background fabric, and this is the leaf here. So there's shape flex on the back of both of those. Let's see, I think I want to go this way. Okay, so we're going to lay this in here so that it is centered as can be. And then step number 4 is always going to be the tack down line for that fabric. And then step number 5 will be the quilting. So we'll get this quilted. It's probably a little hard to see because it's pretty dark, isn't it? All right, so now it's going to do the quilting. So this is going to be the diamond pattern, and I did it so that the diamonds were going, you know, this way, up and down. So now we're going to do the quilting, and then we'll move on to the applique. Probably won't take very long to quilt this. It's not very big, is it? I'll just leave the camera on during the quilting here. Okay, I think that's it. All right, so now it says to stitch the leaf stem fill. So I got to check my color here. I think it's that bronzy color for the stem. I think it's this. Nope, this is the, yeah, this is it, bronze. So it was 1187 in the brother. It's bronze. So we'll do that. And then the next one is going to be the placement lines for the leaf. So put the bronze in. I think when I was looking at all of these, I thought, oh my gosh, there's so many blocks in this one, but I think they'll go fairly quickly because they're small. Most of them are small. There's a few that are a little bit bigger, but most of these are small. So, and then we'll do a couple of filler blocks too. All right, so it's going to do the little stem. And then I think the next ones are going to be with the leaf. So I pulled out a light green because that's what color I made my leaf here. And this is 0178 mint because it matched my fabric nicely. So I'm going to put green on my leaf here. Have to drop the thread on the floor a couple times. All right, so we're going to put the green in now so we can work with our leaf. Now it looks like it has a motif stitch. So I always change my thread to the color that I'm going to be putting on the top. And even if it's satin stitch, I still do it. I've gotten caught too many times that my underneath stitching showed through my motif stitch or something. So I've decided I just always do this now. All right. And this is on page 7 of the instructions. Yeah, page 7. And by the way, when I look through these all, you know, when I'm pulling my fabrics and stuff, I usually go through and look at all the blocks then after I get my little kits together and just pull out like and put the shape flex on the back of all the fabrics. So I just kind of, you know, get the little kits out and go through and put all the shape flex on that needs to be put on as I'm going, because then it's done. So, all right, so then this is going to be we're going to lay our fabric down. This is the leaf, and this is instruction number 2 going into number 3. And stitch the leaf decorative stitches. Now they did this kind of in a, since my leaf was green, they did this in that almondy color, and my leaf was not almond, my leaf was green, so I went ahead and just used green. So this is a change in mine. And then trying to think, stitch trimming, oh yeah, there's a trimming guideline too on here. We may just leave the green in for that. So then we're going to trim our little leaf here. So you can see these are going to go pretty quick. There's a lot of small blocks in this. And if they're only about 2 by 2, they can't take too long, can they? Now this one might have been a nice one to cut out with a scan and cut. It's got lots of little teeny jiggity jaggities. That's my technical term. But I'll just trim it. It'll be fine. Takes a minute. These are so much fun to do. I've been really enjoying this series because now I have all these cute little mini quilts to put in my frame. So they've been lots of fun. And I think next month, the October one is, I think it's Halloween. Seems like it had like cupcakes or something on it. It looks really cute. But it's Halloween themed for October. I haven't looked at the other ones yet. All right, we're getting there. This one's got a lot of little points and stuff in it. So this one would have been a good one to cut with the scan and cut. Sometimes I do these little ones, like this kind of stuff that's really like intricate. I'll trim out with the scan and cut, but all right. Didn't get it done. All right, let's see here. I think we're good. All right, so then it's going to do the motif stitch along the outside edge. So I may turn the camera off for a minute. This is going to take a minute to go around, and then I'll come back and we'll do, I think we have to do a little trimming stitch so that we can see it. And then that will be the end of leaf 1. Okay, we got all the way around the outside edge. That's really a pretty little motif. I don't know if you can see it. Hold it a little closer so you can see it. It's really pretty. And I did it in the green. Okay, so then the last step says stitch the trimming guideline. So this is just going to be a guideline, and they suggested you put in a color that you can see. I'm just going to leave this green in. I should be able to see that okay. And then we'll do all the trimming at the end. So it's just going to go around the outside edge. So these small ones, they often just give you a trimming line like this so that you can trim with a regular rotary cutter or rotary cutter and ruler instead of the pop rulers. So this one's small, so they don't have a pop ruler this size. Okay, so here is the first block. This is leaf 1. Isn't that cute? Has the little diamond pattern in there. All right, so let's go on to the next one. So give me a second. I'll have to turn the camera off for a second while I go find this. Oh, this is going to be Thankful. This is the one that I thought the leaf was red, and it is actually orange. So we're going to have a red leaf on mine, and then I have a gray background, and I think the background's supposed to be kind of green, but it looked gray to me, so I picked a gray. All right, so we're going to get this one out of the hoop, and then I'm going to go get another hoop. I think this one is going to be done in an 8 by 8, so the design actually finishes 6 by 6. This is one of those blocks that if you have a 6.5 by 10, and a 6 by 10 hoop in your machine, if you have a little software, and I'll link all the software, if you get Perfect Embroidery Pro or Perfect or what is it? Tool Shed, Dime Tool Shed, the Tool Shed Plus will give you all the tools you need, and it's very inexpensive to do a little bit. All you need to do is take out steps number 4 and 5, the tack down lines, and then you would be able to do this in your 6 by 10 hoop. So I am going to do it in an 8 by 8 hoop because the design will be 6.5 by 6.5. So that's what I have to go get is my 8 by 8 hoop. So I will be right back, and I will be ready for the next block. Okay, so I've got my 8 by 8 hoop here. And again, and I'm sorry I couldn't say the word, Embroidery Tool Shed Plus is the name of that software. And I will link it in the description below this video. If you have a smaller machine that you can use, if you have just a little software that you can take a couple of the lines out, then you can easily do it in there. This one is going to end up being 6 by 6, so the actual design is 6.5 by 6.5. So I did put in my 8 by 8 hoop in my machine. Since I have a Luminaire, I can do the bigger hoop. And we're going to use, let's see, oh, there's fusible backing. So in other words, shape flex on the back of it's the back of all. So here's my leaf fabric. So I've got shape flex on the back of that. And I've got shape flex on the back of the backing fabric. So mine's gray. So I did pull in a really pale gray thread. I think it's called Sterling, and it's 0158. It's a very, very pale gray that I'm going to quilt mine in. So I've got that up in my needle here, and I've got my embroidery thread in the bobbin. No show mesh in the hoop. So I think we just need these two pieces. Oh, and then we're going to use the red for the outline. So I've got my red thread for that. And then I think the lettering is done in one of those real pale kind of ivory colors. Let me check my, yes. So I have 2 ivories. So I'm going to use the lighter one. It's not white. It's a very, very light cream color. So we're going to use that for the letters and the red for the leaf. And I think that's what we need. Okay, so let's get our design. So we're going to start out with the quilting design. Now I didn't have the one, they used House 3. I didn't have that one. So I found a really pretty autumn one that had like acorns and stuff in it. So I had an autumn 1. So we're going to do that one. I'll get this one out of here. I'm just going to hit the home button up here. Get rid of that. So we're going to go back here and we're going to do our quilting design first. This is on page 8 of the instructions. So we're going to bring in our leaf here. First we're going to get our design, or quilting design. So it's in my Kimberbell Quilting, and it's called Autumn 1. I just picked a couple for this design, so here's my designs. Now remember, if you have 2 choices, you need, what we're doing in this exercise, in this mini quilt, is block by block. So you choose block by block, because I get a lot of questions about that. People will email me or text me and say, I don't have the outlines. So that means that you chose the clear blue tile file instead of the block by block. So when we're doing these types of things, we're using block by block. All right, so PES, and let's see here. I need the 6 by 6 design. So let's see here. It's in here somewhere. There it is. Autumn 6 by 6 right here. So we'll use that one. Oh, that one's pretty. See, it's got leaves on it and acorns. That'll work just perfect for this. And then I am going to bring in my leaf. So then we're going to hit set and add. And then we're going to go get, this one's called Thankful. Go find that one. Let's see here. Where is it? Right here. There we go. And September. And then we're going to go down a little bit to Thankful. Here's the Thankful. Must be the one we need, this one. It comes in sideways, which is fine. And it comes in and it says that both files are centered. So again, everything comes in centered. And if you look at the picture, this is the direction it comes in in the instructions as well. So if it's sideways, it's okay. All right, so then we're going to, I think we're ready to start. All right, so I'm going to hit set. My 6, it's going to, as you can see, it's 6.5 by 6.5 up here. So if you have a 6 by 10, you can still do it if you have a little bit of software. And that Dime Toolshed Plus, Embroidery Toolshed Plus is only like $129. I mean, it's very reasonable. And if you just need a little editing software, it is super user-friendly and very affordable. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with our quilting as usual. So if you get my little kit here, and we're going to, I've got my chunk of batting down here, and I've got my shape flex on the back of the background fabric and the leaf fabric. So that's what it said to do in the instructions. All right. So I've got my gray, because I'm going to quilt this in my gray. Whoops. Sorry, forgot to hit embroidery over here. All right. Got my no-show mesh, and we're going to put our placement line for our batting down. So we always start with the quilting. Gotta get my chunk of batting ready here. So I think these will go along pretty quickly. Even though there's a lot of blocks, I think most of them don't take too long. The one that looks like it will take a while is the house, because there's a lot of embroidery on it. But I could, I don't need to leave the camera on all the time for that. So I think everybody will do very well with this one. All right, so there's our placement line. And again, this is my gray that I'm going to put this in. All right, so I'll put this over the line. I always have lots of little batting chunks because when you long arm, you're always cutting batting off, and this is so nice to have pieces just to use for this kind of stuff. I usually have pieces big enough to put on small table toppers or stuff too. All right, so we're going to sew around the batting. I think it's going to go around twice. And again, we're on page number 8. This is the thankful block. We'll do all the trimming at the end. We'll do 3 blocks and then we'll do the trimming. I had to look through the book and make a little plan for the videos, because I was like, boy, there's a lot of blocks in this one. Sometimes I got to write it down then. Okay, so there's our batting tack down line. So now we're going to trim the batting. Again, this is Hobbs 80/20. I really like this. I think you really see, I like to be able to see the quilting. Some of the flatter like project battings don't show the detail in the quilting as much as this. I've always thought my pillows and little wall hangings and stuff turned out so pretty because you can really see the quilting. And I have a tendency to quilt with matchy thread. I like the quilting to show, but I don't like it to be in your face. So I usually use a matching thread for my quilting. If you like to have it show more, use something more contrasting. All right, so then step number 3 of this design is going to be the placement line for the fabric here. Now this is one of the steps that if you have a 6 by 10 hoop you would need to take out, because this one's going to be the 6.5 by 6.5. So if you have that software, you can take this step out and the following step out. And then what I do is I just lay this over the batting. I mean, it's pretty obvious where you put the fabric, right? I just lay it down, and then I just put some Kimberbell tape along the edges instead of tacking it down. And then it's not going to move, and you will be absolutely fine. Then you just move right on to the quilting. Okay, so I'm trying to make sure I got it kind of centered. There we go. Then step number 4 is going to tack it down, unless you've had to remove that design to get it in your hoop. And I do have a video also about how I did this in Sweet Land of Liberty, so I will also put that in the description so that you can see me doing that. I was using Perfect Embroidery Pro, which is the Dime software, and not the smaller version, but you can do it in that Embroidery Toolshed Plus. Okay, so then step number 5 is the quilting. So I'm going to start the quilting with, I'm leaving the gray in, and then we're going to move on to the, I think there's some stems, and is there a stem maybe? Yeah, they did the stem in the same color as the, I don't know if I'm going to make my stem red. I might make it one of the browns instead. I've got a couple of browns here. So here's my, is that quilting pretty? It really shows on this batting. I just love Hobbs batting because it just shows, makes everything pop out so you can really see it even though it's matchy thread. So, all right, so I'll be back in a moment when this is done, and then I'll figure out in the meantime what color thread I'm going to use for my stem. Oh my gosh, isn't that a pretty quilting design? I just really like that. That was Autumn 1. So this is one I had. I have a lot of their designs, but I haven't bought any for a while, so I just thought this was really beautiful. All right, so the next step actually, instead of the stem, it's actually going to put the leaf fabric down. So the next step is going to be step number 1 in the actual instructions on page 8, and it's going to be the placement line for our leaf fabric. And then we're going to tack it down. I am going to put a brown stem on my leaf, so I picked out a brown. So I think that'll be prettier than the red. Like I said, it looked red in the picture to me, so that's why my leaf's red. So hopefully it looks okay. I can always make it over if I want it. I couldn't find anything orange that looked right, though, so I thought this looked better than the orange. Their orange that they use to make it kind of match is a little bit more, it's not real bright orange. It's a little bit more muted, and I didn't have anything else that I thought would look good with it. All right, so we're going to put this in on top of our placement line. Got shape flex on the back of that as well. And then we are going to stitch the tack down line of our leaf, and then we're going to trim. All right, we got that placement line, or the tack down line down, I'm sorry, tack down line, and it went around it twice. So now we're going to go ahead and do the trimming. I'll take this out. I probably will turn the camera off. You don't need to sit here and watch me trim, but trim around close to stitches. This would be another one that would work real well. I think it says there's an SVG. Yes, is provided. So there is an SVG for this one as well. So, you know, it's pretty intricate, so it might be nice to have cut this out with a scan and cut. I just usually trim in the hoop. So I'll get this trimmed, and I'll be back in a moment. And I think the next step is going to be, it is the stem. So I am going to put my brown in for the next. I think I'm going to like the red leaf. What do you think? It's kind of a dark red. So I usually stick reds in with fall too, because, you know, the leaves often turn very red in the fall. So I'll be back in a moment after I get this all trimmed. Okay, so the next step is stitch the leaf stem fill. So I'm actually going to do the leaf stem in this lighter brown. I had a couple of browns that I had pulled out, so this one's a little bit lighter, and I thought I'd do the stem in brown instead of in the red. And this one is sandstone, so 0297. This is one of my favorite browns. It's just a nice light brown. And then we'll go back to the red, because then the next step is going to be the satin stitch around the leaf. So we'll go back to the red, and then I think then the next part will be the lettering. So I'll be back in a moment when my stem is done, and then we'll go on to the leaf satin stitch and the lettering. Okay, so I've got the red back in again for the leaf. Lynn's going to go around and do the satin stitch on that, and then we'll go back and start working on the lettering. And I think there's also some really pretty leaves. Oh, there is. I'll show you. There's some pretty leaves on the leaf too. Some little leaf stems with the word thankful in the middle. Okay, so we'll be back in a moment after the satin stitch. This takes a little bit to go through, and then we'll do the lettering, and we're almost done with our second block already. Okay, so I got my satin stitch around my leaf here, and I'm ready to do the little like sprigs of the little sprigs and the thankful in the middle. And so I went ahead and put in my ivory. I think it's 1267. Sorry, I bumped the camera. 1267 for my lettering and my little sprigs here. And then we're getting almost done with our second block already. So I will be back when this is done. This one's going to take a little while because it has quite a lot of stitches in it. And then I think the next block is going to be a small one again. So we're going to do the gourd, and it's going to be another one of those small ones. Okay, so here's our leaf. Oh my gosh, you know, I do like the red. I wasn't sure, you know, when I made the mistake of the red, but you know, actually I kind of like the red. And then this is done in the kind of cream color, so it's not pretty. So there's our second block, and then we're going to move on to the gourd block next. So I have to go get my hoop. We're going to go back to, I believe, the 4x4. Yes, so the next one is going to be done in the 4x4, and the gourd is actually made out of the embroidery leather. Yes, so the embroidery leather. So I'll get that out, and this one's going to be another one of those little tiny blocks. So I'll go get my 4x4 hoop out. So I'll be right back and we'll do the gourd block. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our 4x4 hoop. Got my no-show mesh in there. And this one's going to end up being 2x2 as well. So we're going to start out with, I got my little kit here, so I needed my background fabric, which is going to be quilted with my yellow. It's called Fashion Glow. Can't remember the number. 1321 is the one that matches this pretty well. So I have that in my needle, and then embroidery thread in the bobbin, or I should say bobbin thread in the bobbin. And then I have the embroidery leather. So I didn't cut mine. It says you're supposed to cut them into little pieces. I usually just hold it up so that I can save as much as possible. So this is just the whole piece, and I'll just hold it up. And let's see. So we're going to start out with our quilting again. So give me a second here. I'm going to go get our quilting, and I'm going to go back to that diamond pattern for this one. They use diamond 3, and I have diamond 1. So that's the one I have to use. So we're going to go to diamond 1. I have to be careful not to go too fast because I skip over all the letters. Diamond 1, here we go. And then it's going to be that 2x2 again. There's a lot of small blocks in this one. And then this one says vertical. So we'll do the up and down one again on this one. Okay, so I'm going to set that, and then I'm going to hit add down here, and then we're going to go get the gourd block. I'm glad some of these were smaller. It's nice to do these little ones. So Mini Quilts Volume 2, here we go. And then we'll go get the September, and then we're doing the gourd, so it's right here. All right, and these say the files are centered, so I've got that. All right, we're going to hit embroidery. Okay, so we're going to start out with our quilting as usual. Give me a second here. I got my cord wrapped up. All right, so we're going to start out with our quilting. I've got my yellow in there that I'm going to quilt with. First step is always going to be our placement line for the batting. Get my chunk of batting up here. It's kind of nice to get a 4x4 hoop out every now and then. I remember years ago when all the big hoop was 5x7 and sometimes 6x10. I know my biggest hoop was 5x7 for a long time. All right, so we're going to lay our batting down, and we're going to do step number 2, which is the tack down for the batting. So we're probably going to go around it twice. And this is page number 9 of the instructions, by the way, the gourd block. Okay, so then we're going to trim our batting. It's trimmed here. can see what I'm doing. All right, trim the batting. And then step number 3 is going to be the placement line for the fabric. And then we're going to tack the fabric down and do the quilting. So I'm going to try to get this centered as well as I can. I did have some of the fabrics. This was one of the fabrics they had in the design. I did have some of the fabrics. I have a lot of Kimberbell scraps, so I keep, because so often you just need just a little bit. And so I keep all the little scraps of the Kimberbell fabric. It's very hard for me to find it around here. Some people have it, but I usually have to order stuff, so I try to keep all the little scraps. All right, so there's the tack down line then, and then step number 5 is always the quilting. So that'll be the next step. And it won't take long to quilt this. It's just going to be some diamonds here. And then we'll go on to, I think it does the stem of the gourd first. So I chose my kind of tannish color 1141 shredded wheat for that. Yeah, this one's very fast. All right, so it's all quilted. When it's only 2 inches square, it doesn't take long, does it? All right. So then the next step is going to be the gourd stem, and I chose my shredded wheat for that. So it's kind of a light, kind of a tan brown. So we'll do that one, and then we're going to move on to the actual applique piece. All right. Get my little stem done here, and then step number 2 on page 9 is the stem. Let's see, stitch the gourd stem detail, which is what we're doing. Oh, I see what they did. They did a fill in the lighter color, and then they did the darker color that we're going to use on the actual gourd as the outline. So now I see. It was a little, didn't quite understand what they're doing. So I'm going to put my bronze in, which matches my embroidery leather now, and then it's going to do like a little outline on the stem, and then it's going to do the placement lines for this. So we're going to do that first. Yeah, they added an extra step. Now I see. I missed a step. So it's just got a little bit of a outline. And now we're going to do the placement line for the embroidery leather. Just a second here. I've got a little tail that's stuck up here. Okay. So we're going to do our placement line for the embroidery leather. This is step number 3 on page 9. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. And then we're going to put this one down, right side up. And I'm going to try to save as much as possible, so I'll be skimpy with it. Okay. And then it's going to tack this down, and then we're going to trim this, and this is going to be raw edge applique, so we'll just trim it. Oh, they're even going to do some of the lines in it and everything. That's cool. Placement line, and then the tack down line and the detail. Cool, and then you're going to trim. Well, that's neat. They're putting the detail on the inside of it. And then we'll trim it. So this will be raw edge, so we'll have to be a little careful with the trimming on this. All right, so now we're going to trim. Now when you trim this embroidery leather, you do want to be careful. Now let me just look on the back of this. See, it's lighter on the back. So when I trim this and it's lighter on the back, I always take my scissors and I try to tip them towards me so that that light, if you tip them back, you're going to see that light piece on the top. So I try to tip them towards me so that they're up and down. And these are those Ginger 6-inch curved scissors, and these work pretty well. I've always struggled a little bit cutting embroidery leather because I don't like the edges to show the light color underneath. And of course, most of the time this is raw edge, so you want the edge to look nice too. So, but if I tip my scissors back towards me and make them more up and down, then I get a nicer edge, and I don't see that light color underneath. Some of them are white, like this one's kind of a cream color underneath. It's kind of tan cream, so it's not white at least. So let's see if I can get a little closer here. Just got a little spot. Maybe I have to go get my glasses. There we go. All right. Let's see how I did here. Ooh, that's cute. Isn't that cute? Just a little gourd. How cute is that? Little tiny block. And now the next step is going to be, oh, another stitch trimming line. I'm just going to leave that bronze in because I should be able to see that well to trim with it. And then we'll be ready for the trimming. So that's going to be our little trimming stitch. And then we'll be ready for the trimming of the 3 blocks we've already done. Isn't this going quick? So cool. This one only had like 1,300 stitches in it. So that's so cool. It says 2 minutes for the stitch out. Awesome. Look at there. All right. We're all done with another block already. 3 blocks already. Look at there. So I will be back in a minute. I'm going to switch the camera over here so I can do the trimming, and then we will trim our 3 blocks, and then we will be ready for the second video to do some more blocks. Okay, so we're going to trim our blocks, and the 2 small blocks need to be trimmed on this little line. They gave us a trimming line, and they're going to be 2.5 inches square. So I just have a regular ruler here that I'm going to use, and I'm going to lay my marks, my 2.5 inch mark on my lines here so that I know that it's square. Okay, so I'm putting the 2.5 inch line on here and the 2.5 inch on this one, the marks on my ruler, and then I'm going to trim 2 sides at once. And I have my Martelli roundabout on here, and I'm going to go up that side, and then I'm going to go up this side like that. So then I know those are square, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to lay these down right on the line. So here's my 2.5 inch mark here on my ruler and my 2.5 inch mark here. I can turn my mat a little bit, and again, I am left-handed, so I am cutting with a left-handed rotary cutter. There we go. So there's our little 2.5 inch square. That's our little gourd. Here's the little leaf. We're going to do the same thing with it. So the line that they sewed on at the end really helps. So just put that on your 2.5 inch mark on your ruler, and you can cut up 2 sides at once. One side, the second side, okay? And then we're going to flip it over and do the same thing. I'm laying those lines on my 2.5 inch marks on my ruler. Sure it's nice and square, and then I'm going to cut this side and this side. There we go. Oh my gosh, there's our little leaf. Cute little blocks, aren't they? So there's the 2 little blocks, and then let's get these out of the way. And then the 3rd block is Thankful. So Thankful is going to be cut with the orange pop rulers, and that one is 6.5 by 6.5. Let me get that. So here's my 6.5 by 6.5, and the line that's around the outside edge is 6.5. So that will be really nice to be able to get it centered then. And it's a little hard to see probably on the video because it is the same color as my background. So I'm just going to get that lined up in there. That looks pretty good. I'm sure this is kind of in the middle. There we go. And then I'm going to turn. Again, if you have this cutting mat, this is the Martelli roundabout. And I've got my rotary cutter. This is a Martelli rotary cutter, and they're very good rotary cutters, and they're very sharp. So I'm going to push. I kind of started up, push back, pull back into the corner, and pushed forward with these orange pop rulers. These are a little bit tricky to use. I'm kind of getting the hang of them now, but just take your time. I have to be pretty deliberate when I use them. I start up, pull back into the corner, and go forward. But I just take my time. It's just a very different feeling cutting on the inside of the ruler. But after I got used to them, you can also take like a marking pen and mark it and then do it that way if you want to. But I found that I do really well with them. Oh my gosh, isn't that pretty? I actually think I'm going to like the red. Even though it's supposed to be orange, mine's going to be a red leaf. I like the red. All right, so there's our first 3 blocks for the September mini quilt. So we are going to move on to video number 2. We'll do 3 more blocks in there, and then video number 3, I think we're also going to do about 3 blocks. So there's quite a lot of blocks in this one, so we'll be doing the first 3 videos will all be the blocks that we'll be embroidering. So thank you so much for joining me for video 1, or part 1 of the September Kimberbell Mini Quilt, and we will move on to video 2, part 2, and do some more blocks. So thank you very much. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, Sew Along with Jan, please do. That way you can see when I have new videos available for you. And also, if you like the video and you learned something, give me a thumbs up on YouTube. It really helps me. So thanks so much, everybody, and we'll see you in part 2.